is how we country down in the boondocks. This is how we country out in the sticks. Bonfires, mud tires, cowgirls, and cold beer. This is how we country, how we do this. Yeah, it's time to get your country on. Moving that dirt till it hurts, strike payday. Cash that check in a one-horse town. Punching that clock non-stop till the weekend. I suck the beer, throw the tailgates down. Find a dirt road that no one knows, light a bonfire. Find a George Strait song, turn it to 10. Kick up your boots, raise the roof on a good night. Time to get rowdy with a few good friends. It's finally Friday, ain't going down till the sun comes up. Doing things our way, living that simple life that we love. This is how we country down in the boondocks. This is how we country out in the sticks. Bonfires, mud tires, cowgirls, and cold beer. This is how we country, how we do this. This is how we country up in the holler. This is how we country off an old dirt road. Skull rings, denim jeans, whiskey bent and hellbound. This is how we country, this is how we roll. Find someone to kiss, don't miss what the good Lord's laid out in front of you. It's your turn, so pop a top, don't stop, take a sip, pass it on. It's time to fly, so get ready to burn. The night is young, we just begun, ain't no turning back now. So lock up those hoods and hold on tight. It's time to get crazy, whole lot of insane. Drop it down and forth for the ride of your life. Take it to the edge, we're sleeping, we're dead. Ain't going down till the sun comes up. Pick up speed, feeling free, living that simple life that we love. This is how we country down in the boondocks. This is how we country out in the sticks. Bonfires, mud tires, cowgirls, and cold beer. This is how we country, how we do this. This is how we country up in the holler. This is how we country off an old dirt road. Skull rings, denim jeans, whiskey bent and hellbound. This is how we country, this is how we roll. This is how we, this is how we country. This is how we country, this is how we, this is how we country. This is how we country. Yeah. This is how we country down in the boondocks. This is how we country.
Giant wolf dog of Paris. Wolves in the streets of Paris. My God. Oh my God. Like an actual guard dog. What the hell? Did he just go do security on all this black? My God. Welcome to Paris. Where the hell is that helmet? Whoa, first of all, that dog is giant, and he's like a trained guard dog. Oh my God, oh my God.
When this baby started crawling towards the front door that was open, their dog noticed this was unsafe for her and immediately got up and tapped her to go the other way. He then walked over to the front door and laid down to guard it. After she continued to crawl towards the front, the dog blocked her again and decided to start pushing her the other direction. An incredibly smart dog doing everything to make sure his little sister was safe. Dog goes around a farmer's market and shops for its owner. You can see her touching the food she wants, and then the store owner will put it in her basket. She then picks it up and brings it to the next one and does the same. She's even walked up to a stranger and taps on them to get their attention so she can get some oranges for her basket. After the store owner gets her some, the dog then tells them she needs some little oranges. There have been moments of miscommunication though. When she went to get some oranges from this worker, she tapped on the orange she wanted and the worker gave her a few different ones. She then points at it again saying she wants this orange specifically, and the worker says no. So she grabs the orange anyway, puts it in her basket like she'll just take it herself then, and walks away.
Hello everyone, thank you all for coming. Before we get started, I want to briefly introduce myself for those who are just meeting me for the first time. I won't spend too much time on my background as we do have a lot to cover today in this 2-hour webinar. And we'll be able to get to know each other more as we work together in the future. So my name is Tony Nila, and I have been a canine behavior specialist for over 30 years now, specializing in canine cognitive learning. I am thoroughly educated in canine ethology, learning theory, and interpreting canine communication. I have worked under an applied animal behaviorist with a PhD in comparative psychology, while working exclusively with wolf dogs for the past 8 years regarding my personal research on wolf dogs and their cognitive development. I also have a certificate in dog emotion and cognition for Duke University. So I have a question for you guys. Have you ever owned or met a genuinely good, well-behaved dog that required zero training, tools or treats, right? And when you ask the owner how they trained their dog, the common answer you'll usually hear is, I've never trained my dog. He's just always been that way. As a puppy, he's an old soul, so to speak. Well, what if I told you that this isn't an anomaly? This has already been researched by modern science, so much to the point that universities now no longer condone dog training or behaviorism, which is why dog training currently is never going to be a regulated profession. In fact, dog training and behaviorism has been obsolete since the 1950s. Yet dog trainers and a few other animal professions are still using outdated methods to control and manage animals. So today's focus is called latent learning. And it started a cognitive revolution in the 1950s. Even today, if you talk to a psychologist, they're not going to help somebody that has emotional trauma or PTSD through rewards and punishment, right? So have you ever wondered like what's actually going on inside your dog's mind while they're learning? Now, many training methods today still focus on an old idea called behaviorism, where dogs are trained through rewards or punishment. But what if I told you that there's a better way? And today we're going to dive into the fascinating world of cognitive learning, and we'll see how scientist named Edward Tolman changed the way we understand learning, not just for humans, but for animals too. And guess what? His discoveries can help us train our puppies much better. So let's get started. What is cognitive learning? Before we jump into Tolman's famous rat experiment, let's break down what cognitive learning actually is. So cognitive learning is when we gain knowledge by thinking, problem solving, creating mental connections, right? Unlike traditional training methods that rely on rewards and punishment, cognitive learning shows that animals and people process information from memories and even predict future events. For example, have you ever noticed that your puppy figure out a new space? Or maybe they explore a room and find a back door and later remember how to quickly get there, right? So that's cognitive learning in action. But early psychologists didn't always believe that animals can even think this way. They used to believe animals only learn through cause and effect, trial and error, like a treat for sitting or scolding for chewing on shoes. And this was called behaviorism. This is what dog trainers use today. And for a long time, it was the main theory in psychology. Now let's go into Edward Tolman's rat maze. In the early 1900s, behaviorists like B.F. Skinner and John Watson believed that animals only learn through trial and error, meaning that they only repeated actions if they were rewarded, which is why dog trainers use it. But Edward Tolman challenged this idea with a groundbreaking experiment in the 1930s. Tolman tested 3 groups of rats in a maze. Here's where it gets absolutely amazing. So group 1, which is the control group, got a reward. These rats were given food at the end of the maze every time they reached it. And as expected, they quickly learned to find the food and got faster over time. And that's the whole power of positive reinforcement. That's why dog trainers use it today. Group 2 got no rewards. This group was allowed to wander the maze with no food at the end. And since there was no reward, behaviorists thought, well, they just won't learn the maze at all. And then we get into group 3, which received a delayed reward on the 11th day. At first, these rats weren't given food, just like group 2, but after 10 days, Tolman placed food at the end of the maze, and then what happened next was absolutely mind-blowing. Even though they had never been rewarded before, they suddenly found their way through the maze just as quickly as the first group, actually better performing than the first group. And this meant that they had been learning the maze the whole time, even without food as a reward, without anybody ever realizing it. So Tolman called this latent learning, meaning that learning happens even when we don't see immediate results. The rats had built a mental map of the maze in their brains, proving that they weren't just responding to rewards, they were critically thinking. And this is where the shift from behaviorism to cognitive science takes place in the 1950s. So Tolman's research helped spark the cognitive revolution, a movement in psychology that shifted from focusing on rewards and punishments to understanding how the mind actually works. And scientists began to see the brain like a computer, taking in information, storing it, and using it to make decisions. And this was a new way of thinking that opened the door to more advanced studies in learning, memory, even understanding animal intelligence. Now let's talk about why this matters for training our dogs. Now most professional dog trainers still use operant conditioning, meaning that they rely on rewards, positive reinforcement, or corrections, negative reinforcement to shape an animal's behavior. And while reward-based training is effective, it doesn't fully engage your dog's cognitive abilities. There's limitations of behaviorist training in dogs, and there's an over-reliance on treats. Dogs can become dependent on food rewards and may stop responding when they don't get the treat anymore. It also has a lack of problem-solving opportunities for dogs. A dog trained only with rewards and punishment might struggle when faced with new challenges that actually requires critical thinking. It also can cause emotional stress. If training ignores a dog's cognitive and emotional state, it can cause stress and frustration. And just like how animals in entertainment industries like circus elephants or SeaWorld orcas show signs of mental distress when their cognitive needs aren't being met in that kind of environment. So let's talk about cognitive-based training, which is a smarter way to train dogs. Instead of just rewarding and correcting, we should encourage our dogs to think, problem solve, and learn in a way that is natural to them. Here's how you can train your puppy using cognitive learning principles. For example, you can encourage more exploration. You can let your puppy explore and learn from their environment, just like in Tolman's rat maze when he was doing the research study. You can use problem-solving games, puzzles, scent games, obstacle courses that challenge your puppy's mind. And you can also teach through observation. Dogs learn by watching, so show them behaviors instead of just commanding them, which give them time to process. If your dog doesn't respond right, don't rush them. They might be forming a mental map as you're trying to force them into a decision-making process. So this is a more humane future way of training an animal. Edward Tolman's research changed the way we understand learning, not just for humans, but for animals too. So instead of treating dogs like simple creatures that respond only to rewards, we now know that they're capable of much more, thinking, planning, and understanding their world in much deeper ways. So as dog trainers and pet parents, we should embrace cognitive science to train smarter, not harder, and helping our dogs grow in confidence, creativity, and understanding. So let's start. Let's start with the training more brain and less bribe. Now, before we get into cognitive development and latent learning, I need to first remind you that cognitive learning has absolutely nothing to do with training. So we don't have to train our puppies. It's not about how to fix your puppy or how to train them. In fact, it has more to do with what not to do or how to stop doing what you're doing that's causing behavior problems to begin with. So by avoiding what we call twin behaviors. The definition of a twin behavior is an indirect behavior that's creating problem behaviors while the owner is unaware that they're nurturing future or current behavioral issues. So let's watch a video on what twin behaviors are and what not to do when raising a puppy during their cognitive development phases, which is when your guys are going to first have your puppies.
Every terrible behavior has a less awful counterpart. If you can discover and remove that twin, the primary unpleasant behavior will evaporate on its own. You never ever put a dog in a situation where it will be provoked, not until it has demonstrated to you that it has the ability to think deeply and be self-aware. I don't take a dog anywhere as long as it's reactive. Each dog's actions are linked in some way. Consider a chain with 10 links. The corroded and discolored last link on the chain represents the faulty link, behavioral issue. As a behaviorist, your duty is to figure out where the behavioral issue originates. You're in search of the underlying behavioral problem, the twin behavior, not the problem itself. If you're only focusing on the offending behavior itself, the link you're trying to train away will put you in a risk of causing conflict or agitating the behavior even more. Frequently, every behavioral issue has a twin behavior that the dog owner loves, nurtures, and enjoys. And the bad behavior expands as the owner supports the less annoying twin behavior. Example of a twin behavior. Pay close attention to the dog's environment as well as how the owners interact with their pet while looking for twin behaviors. Keep a watch out for these two tendencies so you can monitor twin behavior patterns.
Before we get started on how to use latent learning with your canine, I first want to go over why food is not used in latent learning. No matter how a puppy misbehaves or how upset the mother gets with her litter, she will never stop feeding them or withhold food for a lack of following a command. The puppies always eat before retiring to bed. She also doesn't provide food to encourage good behavior. Education is education, just as eating is eating. A canine mother knows best how to control and manage her litter with absolutely zero training. In regards to food, your puppy is firmly held by the smells because they fill both their senses and nostrils. Despite the fact that a puppy seems to pick things up and perform things for a food reward, a canine is incapable of latent learning in the presence of food. Instead, the behavior is altered with operant conditioning, a stimulation and response theory by scientist B.F. Skinner. But this has nothing to do with self-awareness or cognitive learning. Instead, your puppy is blindly conditioned, working in a robot-like fashion and not getting the opportunity of self-aware learning. Remember that in Tolman's rat maze experiment, the rats were not capable of creating a cognitive layout of the maze once they were aware that food was present. The food itself was distracting them from latent learning. While drunk with desire for the presented food lure, your canine will repeat a pattern of conduct in a zombie-like manner. Sadly,
Your dog will always need to be controlled and micromanaged with obedience commands with this method of learning. With the use of food, historically, your dog's training will stay at a substandard level. Additionally, your puppy is already wired and naturally motivated to latent learn from birth. Like any puppy, this curiosity is what triggers the learning process, especially when there are no substantial distractions such as food, rewards, or toys that draw your dog's attention away from the environmental learning at hand. Now, as we progress on how to use latent learning, it's critical that everyone understands that if they wish to help dogs without using tools or giving them treats, it can only be done completely latently, which means no dog training is required. I'm referring to operant conditioning when I say zero dog training. Other than operant conditioning, there are other ways to learn, which I believe trainers don't examine very often. Latent learning is not about what to do or how to do it, but rather about what not to do, such as the desire to protect your dog from natural environmental discomfort. Dogs need to experience and learn from their surroundings, but when you micromanage and blindly condition them to hyper-focus on you and your commands, you are constantly interrupting them from taking in information from their surroundings because you are selfishly bringing all of the attention back onto yourself, rather than giving what the dog's needs first before asking for your own needs and demands in return. Well, let's start from the beginning, and let's start with puppies. First thing we'll go over is destructive chewing. To stop destructive chewing, you should first cease doing whatever it is that is causing the chewing in the first place. This involves not buying or encouraging dog toys to begin with. I know what the majority of you are thinking right now. I thought I heard you mention that pups should not be given toys. Is it possible that I misunderstood you? Teething, boredom, irritation, anxiousness, and protecting your furnishings from being ruined are all fantastic reasons to play with toys. Yes, it's popular dog training advice all over the internet. But is there a latent reason why you shouldn't use toys? Absolutely. There is no such thing as dog toys. Wolves and dogs do not provide toys to entertain their pups. Toys disrupt a puppy's life and evidently teach 100 or more undesired microbehaviors, such as becoming familiar with chewing man-made materials whenever they are bored and stressed or need stimulation. It draws them away from natural latent learning and encourages them to engage in non-productive entertainment-oriented activities. The worst of which makes it difficult for a puppy to understand the value of mental rest, not stimulation. Give a bone to a puppy. This isn't a toy. If the dog wants to use the bone as a toy, that's fantastic. That's excellent latent learning. Well, what is the takeaway? There's no need to develop compulsive, stimulus, reactive behavior or resource guarding when you can produce what you want with the resources you currently have, while also not having to hire a trainer for a future behavioral issue that you caused to begin with by blindly conditioning your dog and encouraging the use of dog toys for boredom, anxiety, or frustration. This will just educate your puppy that similar textured objects, such as the rubber bottoms of shoes or the plush substance of your furniture, are suitable outlets for boredom and irritation. Just you and toys have taught them. Fetching with toys that can be tossed are also completely detrimental to ruining a healthy dog's cognitive thinking. Toys are a completely waste of money. With all that wasted money, I'd rather buy a second puppy. There should be no hunting. Nothing should be thrown for your dog to chase, not even playing with a ball, which is a form of mock hunting. Anything that makes a young puppy go into prey drive is too much for them to bear. With an adult dog, the preceding guidelines will also get you started with a dog that already has small animal prey drive. It only takes a few seconds to figure out why squeakers are so appealing to dogs. Squeaky plush toys encourage your dog's natural hunting instincts. Terriers, for example, were developed to keep rats off the streets of the United Kingdom. When a little animal like a rat is being hunted, what noises do they make? When a dog recognizes when it's time to shred its prey, how does it know? For those who said when the squeaking stops, you figured out why dogs only shred soft toys when the squeaker breaks and stops working. Our domestic pets' genetic code is profoundly embedded in them. Any trainer working with controlled aggression, such as a canine protection trainer, is well aware that the best way to develop a puppy's protective instincts is to stimulate hunting using toys and flirt poles. They also advise against comforting and petting a growling dog since, as protection trainers, they're already familiar with how aggression is nurtured. Traditional dog training was pioneered by the military, but most dog owners want a self-sufficient companion that they can take camping, hiking, shopping, and dining with them. A hyper-focused driven dog is not what owners want while having family over for the holidays. The examples in the preceding paragraphs show how poor training can blindly predispose dogs to acquire behavioral disorders. Less is more when it comes to latent learning, the distinction between raising a puppy instead of training a puppy. Puppy mouthing. Ouch! I believe that pet owners should consider what they are doing to encourage undesirable behavior in the first place. Stopping the energy flow and the dog's behavior alters quickly once they figured out where the energy is coming from. Do you use a high-pitched voice to overexcite your puppy? If that's the case, stop.
We're going to learn to be able to play together, but in a bit more of a controlled manner. Whew, that was a chewy one. Ready? Playtime. 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 Yay! Good boy. Now he wants to play with the lines. I'm just going to move it. Try to provoke him with me instead. Yay! Good boy.
When you stop the flow of energy, the dog's behavior changes fast after they figure out where the energy is coming from. Neither I nor any of my other pets engage in this behavior. As a result, mouthing has a slim possibility of even being established within my household. Puppies know that you are not a littermate right away, so they should not treat you like one. Never do anything that would lead them to assume that you are an oddball canine substitute. You don't want to undo the work of Mother Nature when a puppy comes into your life. It's already set up for success. Let the universal truths of nature guide you. It would be a form of extinction, which is defined as the loss of a behavior as a result of lack of a reward. It's basic course in Psychology 101. If nipping or mouthing becomes a habit, you'd have to take preventative steps. Fortunately for my puppies, I have never acquired mouthing as a bad habit. It's incredible. You don't have to deal with trashy habits that should have never happened or developed in the first place that you have to train and fix later. My dogs and I enjoy spending time together, and we also cherish our freedom. I reside in a forested area in North Carolina with local deer to keep us company. My dogs must be attentive at all times. They can't possibly be barking at bears, deer, or squirrels. I have to put my faith in them to maintain their composure. I make no attempt to improve evolution. All you perceive when you look at wild creatures is magnificence. Then, we as humans come into the possession of them, and then all we perceive are problems. Because natural learning works for me, I cling to the path of least resistance, which is starting to come easily to me. Step 1 of mouthing: what are you doing to generate the unwanted behavior to begin with? If you don't find it out, situations that should be resolved in hours will take months, if not years, to resolve. So start making a list. Some examples can be found below. Number 1, do you pet your puppy on the head or face all the time? If this is the case, come to a halt. There are numerous pleasant spots to share affection with your dog than having your hands in their face all the time. Even for humans, it is not customary to greet your boss at work by touching their face. Yet we find it okay to do that to animals that we even have just met for the first time. 2, do you overexcite your puppy by speaking in a high-pitched voice? If this is the case, stop doing that. 4, do you become irritated when they mouth you or bite you and still engage with them on the floor at their level? Come to a complete halt and walk away if this is the case. 5, your puppy is not properly reading the human and environment, but instead, your puppy is reacting to the human and environment. Hence the old saying, learn to read the room. Your puppy, so to speak, is not reading the room. He's reacting to it. Separation anxiety and prevention. Remember, in the preceding pages, I indicated that latent learning is more about what not to do than what to do or how to do it. It's about putting an end to what's causing the issues in the first place. Puppy gates are a major no-no in the world of latent learning. Puppy gates are the number 1 cause of separation anxiety on our list. You might wonder why. Puppy gates aren't really puppy gates, but rather they're baby gates.
A baby gate, also known as a kid safety gate, is a barrier that keeps babies and toddlers out of parts of the house that are potentially dangerous, such as stairwells and kitchens. Keep in mind that I just said keeping them out, not keeping them in. Is there a distinction? Absolutely. Barriers meant for containment, like yard gates, baby gates, dog crates, and even a leash may induce barrier frustration. This can result in a variety of microbehavior issues such as fence fighting and separation anxiety. Separation anxiety is a component of two categories. One, an imbalanced interest in the surroundings generated by overly enthusiastic people speaking in a high-pitched voice, overtraining, and fostering toy, ball, or food addiction in your training curriculum. In combination with two, the physical barrier, such as a baby gate, crate, automobile, fence, kennel, leash, or even your house. When these two elements are combined, they will start to show as fixation, then obsession, then overexcitement, and finally, emotional frustration. Now let's take a look at what you've learned so far with the data you've just been given. How can we avoid separation anxiety in the future? The first component should be straightforward. For starters, cease doing all you can to prevent making mistakes with the first component. Have you worked out a way to get rid of the second component? You predicted correctly if you said no puppy gates. And this leads us to our next latent strategy. Boundary training. No puppy gates. Remove any baby gates and teach your puppy about household limits that aren't evident. Keep in mind, we're not containing a puppy to a specific area. We are choosing an area that is off limits to the puppy. Not being permitted in the kitchen or splitting your living room in half with your puppy on the portion furthest from the front entrance are two fantastic examples. This will also latently transfer to not rushing visitors at the door, jumping on you when you get home, bolting, and of course, even separation anxiety. There is no compliance, no directives, and no conversation on its part of the boundary. If your puppy approaches your side, just reposition them by the collar numerous times without saying anything. Your dog may cross the border if you're not home. But once you come home, you must quickly return them to their boundary. After enough repetitions, the dog will associate that boundary with your body posture and expression, even outside of your home. This will demonstrate to the puppy that your actions, expressions, and body language have meaning. You have value and purpose in his or her environment. One very crucial point to remember is that whatever you decide to set these boundaries, your puppy should be on the halfway point where you are. You are the motivator and value to the whole process to stay within that boundary. Your puppy is just not allowed to follow you off that boundary. While on your side, you should give your puppy the independence and body time it needs, as well as the opportunity to have fun and play. However, if the play should extend over the boundary, you should notice that your puppy comes to a stop. Crate training. Don't do it. The second reason for separation anxiety on our list is crate training. You may be wondering why. Keep in mind that I never said crates are harmful, but the crate training process certainly may be. When you convert your crate into a lesson about attempting to persuade your puppy to use it by tossing treats or using repetitive force, you're attracting too much attention and convincing, which can lead to mental irritation while learning. Even a food lure only rewards the behavior, not the crate itself. Remember that operant conditioning is not cognitive learning. Until the crate door closes, you really have no idea what the puppy is thinking. So how should you crate train your dog? When you're at home, leave the crate door open and let your puppy stay inside on their own. It should not be trained in any way. Create an open space where your puppy is protected from the environmental risks and leave their crate in the confinement area if you need to keep your puppy contained in an area. And consider it like a doghouse. Once in the yard, most dogs will explore and desensitize themselves to a doghouse. They'll figure out how valuable it is on their own. Over time, High-value incentives like a cow foot, marrow bone, or knuckle bone from your local butcher might be offered. Do not squander money on pet shop baked or processed hooves and bones. A butcher is a far better alternative, and a natural bone is far better for diverting unpleasant behavior in place of toys. Processed bones aren't always enough to motivate puppies to change their habits. Collars and harnesses. Let's get naked. In the house, puppies should never wear collars or harnesses. To better understand why, consider what a harness and leash are intended to do. Is it for the purpose of training and control? Then it's the polar opposite of what I'm attempting to share. While you're at home, free of distractions and danger, take advantage of the opportunity to become comfortable physically handling your puppy. This aids in touch conditioning and bonding. Also, shows the puppy that your behaviors, attitudes, and body language all have meaning. In his or her environment, you have worth and purpose. I like to share a shared experience with service dog clients and dog trainers. Many people are unaware of how mischievous service dogs can actually be. I frequently receive calls reporting service dogs that are jumping, pulling, or running out the door. When their service dog vest is worn, however, their behavior in public reverts to that of a model canine citizen. My dog only listens to me when he's wearing a pinch collar, but once it's off, he behaves badly. Another regular concern I hear from clients. Maybe your dog will only listen to you if you give him a reward. It's important to remember that canines have a strong ability to link behaviors and patterns. Off-leash training, the invisible leash. Instead of taking the puppy for a short leash walk, take your puppy to an open location where a training line can be set up, about 25-foot light clothesline or a paracord. Play hide and seek and race the puppy while you still can. Get away from your puppy. Turn the tables on the dogs who are always trying to get away from us. You see, dogs perceive speed as a source of strength. Hence, it is a true trait of leadership. When a dog knows you're slower, it's tough to establish genuine leadership. In dog packs, the slower animals are not usually the ones in charge. We must create the illusion of speed by racing extremely young puppies. They'll never forget how quick we are, despite the fact that they were slow at the time. Unfortunately, we teach dogs that people are slow in a variety of ways, and then we lose value to the dog as a result. Introducing dogs. When introducing a new dog, it's better to keep them completely apart at first, allowing them to gently introduce themselves latently, and then they'll naturally grow linked over time. The idea is to spend no time in the home allowing them to form any type of pack structure. The idea is to avoid having a gang of dogs. The idea is to create a community of autonomous thinkers who can work together or independently. You don't want a dog pack, you want a dog family. For this reason, when people first bring a puppy home, I generally say, keep the puppy with you for 2 to 3 weeks without meeting your existing dog. And don't isolate the puppy because the pack eats together and sleeps together. If you isolate the puppy immediately after it's left its litter, it will feel the sense of loss of its pack. It will howl, it will cry, it will get frustrated for safety reasons. But the fact that you won't let it sleep with you or in your room simply tells the puppy that you are not part of our pack.
Orcas and dolphins are some of the most intelligent creatures on this earth, and wildlife biologists see remarkable decision-making and problem-solving skills all the time. Most people are absolutely unaware as to the capabilities and cognitive abilities of wild animals, abilities that our common pets just don't have. As a result, our pets need to be micromanaged and controlled through obedience commands and constant supervision, in denial that their own training system still never promote an animal being fully capable of making their own sound decisions without human direction. They are so willing just to accept defeat or make excuses. As so many of you have probably observed, most homeless people have off-leash dogs that have required zero training to learn how to function and be a calm member of society. So why is this anomaly taking place?
And what can wolf dogs and observable behavior teach us about our own pets? Therefore, our pets do not even know how to cross the street or how to self-police, not knowing how their energy affects those around them. Once you're able to understand this latent form of learning and how it applies to everything your dog experiences from puppyhood to adult, it becomes painfully obvious that we should have never gotten in the habit of training our dogs to begin with. As a parent of a child, it is not your job to train children. It is your job to raise your children so they can make proper decisions for themselves when they leave the nest. Training often becomes confrontational, whether you're using positive-only approach or a traditional approach. Learning can be stressful despite your style or method. But natural latent learning will dissolve your dog's dependency on constantly needing your direction just to be a well-behaved dog. Before I go any further, let me state unequivocally that I am not anti-dog training. Zoos, service dog work in terms of task training, and canine protection training all benefit from operant conditioning. However, we can develop a dog's cognitive learning function in addition to what we're already doing with them. You'll see a whole new thinking animal in front of you that you didn't realize was there. One with whom you can have a deeper relationship.